Previously on Watcher of the 2000s.
The hell? A visitor?
So it wasn't a false alarm. You, boy, you're coming with us.
Somehow you seem to be able to move metal with your mind. Why surrender?
My name is Joffrey. How may I serve you?
You can serve me by undoing these shackles on my ankles.
Sorry, that order does not compute. I get to see her again.
Take the prisoner to Lady Rosette, along with these incriminating items we've found.
Have I been taken to be tortured by a mad scientist?
Well...
What do we have here?
Hello, Rosette. Mr. Magnetic wants you to examine the Khathulon items we found on our expedition to Earth. This boy was in possession of one of these items. You may want to torture and interrogate him.
Hey, what the hell? An interrogation? Torture? What did I do?
Double M wants me to do more of this dirty work. He'll get what he wants later. Joffrey, let's go examine these nasty items here first. I'll need you to get me some tools from the supply shed.
Yes, ma'am. Shouldn't we try to obtain the information this guy might have?
Gee, thanks. Just when I thought you were the cool one. I oughta—
You, boy. I know you don't want to be here. And I would prefer to be working on my engineering rather than dissection.
Dissection?
But you're going to stay quiet until we're done with you. You got that? Go sit over there.
You're going to be here for a while, buddy.
Great. I get abducted by a metal-bending, human-like alien. Then there's some sort of involvement of that purple squid bastard who I thought was finally gonna leave me alone forever. And now I gotta deal with this Ice Queen. I don't deserve this. Well, here's a really big one. Justice League. This series brought America's favorite superhero team, until May 2012, into the public consciousness. This series is amazing, it really is. It's a gem of the previous decade's collection of Western animated series, up there with Futurama, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Samurai Jack, Invader Zim, and I suppose someone's gonna be upset if I don't mention Avatar: The Last Airbender. Justice League is the first half of the last show in DCAU. It features some of the most complex characterization I've seen in a children's animated series, with a great cast of characters, awesome action scenes, and very in-depth storytelling. The opening is majestic and heroic, accompanied with these admittingly poorly animated CGI models doing cool stuff. Well, the bad CG isn't that prominent when the characters are just silhouettes. This intro is perfect for the series. It's slow and building, it's grandiose and it's welcoming. It sets the perfect no-nonsense tone of the series, and that orchestra finally made a theme song to the caliber of Batman the Animated Series. And yet, despite all these strengths and my current admiration, this series was almost unwatchable for me as a kid. The biggest problem with this series is that this is basically not a kid's show. Like, Courage the Cowardly Dog did some creepy and dark things, but it's definitely a child's cartoon. It had a cute walking dog as its protagonist, and had plenty of silly moments to balance out the creepy moments. And it's quite simple. Johnny Bravo is full of adult jokes, but it still had slapstick children could enjoy. Justice League is the most non-kid friendly kids cartoon I've ever seen. It has some of the most complete and dramatic superhero story writing outside of comics, and that's its problem. Maybe I was just dumb, or people just didn't help me understand, but a lot of these stories were hard for me to follow back then. It has a lot of dialogue, a majority of which was quite serious, especially compared to what aired on Cartoon Network normally. It aired later than most shows, at about 8 o'clock, which when you're in early elementary school is quite late, and also aired in 1 hour long brackets, you know, like a television drama. This series is meant to be taken quite seriously, and was meant for older kids and adults. Since I was still watching Ed and Eddie and Fairly Odd Parents at this time, this didn't work for me. Despite being Y7 at time of release, this show is in fact not made for 7-year-olds. So, who are the characters? There's Batman and Superman, who have already been established in their previous series, and they've worked together at this point, so they're cool with each other. Batman's gotten a little more broody from his new adventures after dealing with criminals and psychopaths all day for several years. And Superman's gotten a bit more broody from the end of his animated series too, seeing how he lost much of the Earth's trust at the end of that series. John Jones, or the Martian Manhunter, is the empathetic, mature, nice guy of the group. John Stewart, the Green Lantern, is the really serious by-the-book guy who lines up after he spends too much time with the Flash, who is the comic relief character. Then we have Wonder Woman, who is cool, heroic, and prone to violence. And Hawkgirl, who sucks. Well, no, she's not that bad. She's just the least impressive member of the League. Her character is decently written. I also love how in the intro everyone is doing something cool and Hawkgirl's just kind of floating around doing nothing. And sure, Green Lantern is technically doing nothing too, but at least it looked cool. So, most people familiar with the Justice League realize this cast is kind of strange. Hal Jordan, who was supposed to be the Green Lantern, was replaced by Jon Stewart because of a desire to represent black people. And that's fine with me because Hal Jordan's a really boring character in every adaptation I see him in. Then, Aquaman is swapped out for Hawkgirl because females need representation, and want to get in on our male power fantasy as well. Seems like these two replacements would naturally be attracted to each other. Oh cool. They actually spent 2 seasons building that up. Hilariously, the girls are the most aggressive members of the team. Hawkgirl is more useful than Aquaman because she can fly, but to the credit of the creators, they try to make Aquaman badass in this series too. Like, in his debut episode, he cuts off his own arm and replaces it with a blade.
See to it personally.
The pilot episode of this series is great and introduces its 7 core characters competently. It's also full of creepy and disgusting imagery. In short, what happens in the pilot is that Batman and Superman are contacted by the Martian Manhunter to defend Earth from vampire, shape-shifting Zerg invaders that have infiltrated Earth. They're trying to quest for peace by disarming the planet of its nukes. Jean calls the rest of the Future League, and they halt off the invaders with the power of sunlight and kill their leader, a Metroid. Superman, finally admitting he can't do everything alone, announces the formation of the Justice League. Bruce Wayne also funds a multi-billion-dollar space station without anyone noticing. Actually, since I'm on the subject, the guy also seems to wreck his planes, which cost him hundreds of millions of dollars almost every episode they're in, and no one notices that either. Or maybe it's like in The Dark Knight, where his accountants know but they don't act on it because Batman would go beat them up if they did. Almost every episode of the series deals with the Justice League coming into contact with something that threatens a large number of people. There's often a plot twist that keeps the storylines dramatic. There's a lot of effort to keep the audience invested. You know, like a real drama. The first season is very competently made, but it rarely goes into the territory of great. There are some issues with it. First are some things changed with Superman. Superman looks older than he does from Superman the Animated Series, with lines on the sides of his face and under his eyes, which I thought was alright, but it goes against the notion that Superman is the male fantasy character, and any reminder that a character is getting older is often bad. And it is especially bad due to the fact that Justice League is when Superman is near his prime. The second issue people took with Superman is that his voice actor got changed. It's not as big as the change from seasons 2 to 3 of Dexter's Laboratory Extreme, but it's notable. Then there's the fact that Superman gets thrown around like a ragdoll in many episodes of the first season to demonstrate how powerful the villain of the week is. Like in the episode Paradise Lost, Hades hit Superman once and knocked him down. Not even Darkseid could do that in the animated series, and I remind you that Darkseid is supposed to be one of the strongest villains in DC. And even if you can overlook that, Hades is the god of the underworld after all. I can't quite overlook how Superman is being overpowered by the robot guards of Mongol in Warworld. Or him being overpowered by Wonder Woman in Paradise Lost, or him being completely dominated by Arisia in Fury. Arisia, in Amazon, is strong enough to twist Superman's arm behind him. Even for me, a non-Superman fan, that's kind of insulting. Basically how they handled Superman in the first season had fans dub him Super Wimp. It makes sense, as Superman is the biggest power fantasy character there is, and one major appeal to him is that he can take on any foe because he has the strength to do so. I think this character is boring, and I can see how this came out wrong. The Martian Manhunter is also weaker than he should be. He has shapeshifting, intangibility, super strength, and telepathy. Supposedly in the comics, he's arguably even stronger than Superman, and he's also the strongest telepath in the world, like Professor X levels. In this series, if someone else is a telepath, like Dr. Destiny, Zip-Boy, or Morgan Le Fay, prepare to see Jean get his mind ass kicked. I really like the character too. He's my second favorite leaguer. He's a nice fatherly guy. It's a shame. Unlike Super Wimp, Jean being weakened is not rectified, mainly because much fewer people threw a fuss about it, and to be honest, his set of powers is really unfair. It just makes him look like a moron when he loses like he does. Aside from Jean and Superman losing dignity, well I mean more dignity wearing those ridiculous outfits and all, the first season was pretty good, but lacked any sense of being memorable. It was competent, but compared to Batman and Superman the Animated Series and Batman Beyond, there was more to be expected, especially with how ambitious this series is, marking itself as the climax of DCAU. Really, the biggest problem in the first season of the show is that there's a lack of a personal feel to the conflicts. There is something threatening people, so the League, or usually 3 to 5 members of the League, goes to resolve it. It's nice to not always use the full League. The writers realize there's no point in all of them appearing if they don't offer much that episode, which allows them to develop the proper characters. Plus, when the entire League does appear, it feels more special and important. Most of these villains featured have never been adapted before. Villains like Mongol, Morgan Le Fay, Felix Faust, and Ocean Master make sense taking on newer, stronger threats with a team. The episodes in the first season that really shine are the ones that are personal, that the characters feel a lot of emotion about. Episodes like the pilot, Secret Origins, where Jean tells the fate of his people and how the Imperium took everything from him, and how he deals with it. Or Injustice for All, which brought Lex Luthor and the Joker back and had Batman struggling with his lack of superhuman abilities, causing him to be more reckless. Though he's Batman, so apparently he was in no trouble the whole time.
How'd you get free?
I could have escaped any time, but I thought I'd stick around to keep an eye on you clowns.
You're despicable.
Also, Batman in the series somehow became superhumanly intelligent. I'll get back to that. One highlight episode is called Legends. What happens is that while the Justice League is fighting Lex Luthor's robot, Flash, Jean, John, and Hawkgirl end up in an alternate universe where everything is happy-go-lucky, and they meet a bunch of campy superheroes called the Justice Guild of America. Jon Stewart recognizes them as characters from his childhood comics that are also his idols as a superhero. And supposedly, I'll let the episode explain how that works.
I have a theory on how you came to be here. As an expert in nuclear physics, I have long hypothesized that there are an infinite number of parallel dimensions, each containing its own planet Earth. Each Earth occupies the same location in space, but vibrates at a different speed. Flash, the energy blast you absorbed caused you to match the vibration rate of our Earth.
So he created a tear in the dimensional barriers which brought us here.
Hey, it was an accident, okay?
But this still doesn't explain the Justice Guild comics I read when I was a kid.
Perhaps the creators of those comics had a subconscious link to this Earth. What they thought was merely imagination was a psychic memory of the Justice Guild's real exploits.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
So, you heard it. Vibrations and comic book writers are getting their inspiration from psychic links by alternate dimensions. So, the villains of this world create trouble while John and Hawkgirl discover that the whole world is fake and had ended 40 years prior. This world is being created by Ray Thompson, a child in the realm that wanted to spend all his remaining time with his childhood heroes. This episode had a great story that started out as campy and started getting really morbid. I also love how the Justice League reacts to the Justice Guild's cornballs.
Nothing a tall, cold glass of milk won't cure.
I think I have some freshly baked cookies, too.
So, you fight crime and bake cookies. How do you do it?
Hey, Cookie.
One word and you'll be the fastest man alive with a limp.
It gets kind of emotional when Jon Stewart has to see his childhood heroes fade away. And it's an episode with a lot of plot contrivances. But of the season-wide episodes, this one works the most. In the season finale, the League goes to fight Nazis during World War II. I'm not even kidding about that. What happens is that there's a villain named Vandal Savage whose setup is very similar to Ra's al Ghul. He's an immortal genius, not as good at fighting but probably smarter since he's older, and also because he has goons that use guns instead of swords. This guy creates a time machine and alters the timeline to make the Axis win World War II by giving his past self great weapons technology. The bad future Bruce Wayne was not caught in Green Lantern's ring, which protected the rest of the heroes from the timeline alteration. Just go with it. RoboCop Batman opens a time portal and sends the League back to fix the timeline. It's a long clash and the Justice League collect plenty of Nazi scalps. Hawkgirl is concerned for Green Lantern, whose power ring runs out, and he has to be a non-superpowered badass. And Wonder Woman meets her comic book love, Stephen Trevor, and it's cute. The Savage Time is a decent season finale. So, since it looks like I won't be going anywhere for a while, my name is...
Please don't talk. The next step to take apart this Khathulon communicator without killing me is a delicate one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You waste your breath apologizing. We're just here because we have to be.
Oh,
Here you are, Lady Rosette, a mechanical disassembler.
Good job, Joffrey. I'll leave you to watch over our prisoner here.
For future reference, my name is... Awfully rude of her.
She wasn't always this way. It's a big bloody rebellion after all.
I'm still really confused here. Can you fill me in?
Okay, what do you want to know?
So, that purple squid monster, Khathulon, the creature that used to randomly come in and interrupt me while I film my reviews, he's in this?
Not only is he in this, he's the head. He's the master of an authoritarian union of over 500,000 life-sustaining planets in multiple galaxies.
Wait, you mean when he boldly made the claim the first time I met him, he wasn't just making stuff up?
Unfortunately, no.
This is a lot to take in. Purple squid alien rules tons of planets. How did he manage to do something so, for lack of a better term, huge?
Simply because he is massively powerful. We know he can obliterate a planet pretty easily, and he might be even stronger than that. This space had to be equipped with telepathy blockers built by Rosette so Khathulon can't read the minds of our agents and find us immediately.
Wait, that means every time that he was around me, he was able to read my mind?
Yes, he definitely knows your deepest, darkest secrets, and probably fully psychologically profiled you within 20 seconds of meeting you.
Well shoot, he probably knows the things I don't tell anyone, like how I think the Big Lebowski is kinda overly revered, and that I'm really into sexy librarians. Sorry, tangent. Where do you guys fit in all of this?
We're the rebels to Khathulon's regime, the Freedom Warriors. We battle the tyrant's attempts to take away the rights of his citizens and his crusades to take over other planets. You've already met our leader, Mr. Magnetic.
Unfortunately. What about Rosette? Did she build you?
That's correct. She's the head engineer, and also been different than when the rebellion started. Hey, I got an idea for a prank on her. This room comes off the base, and you could detach it and it'd be funny to drift several planets away.
And die in space with her strangling me? What's wrong with you? But back on subject. She wasn't always Miss Cold?
No, she was kind of a different person. See, she liked to tinker with objects and believes in helping people, but over the course of her time here, she watched many of her—
Automatic sleep mode initiated.
Oh, come on. Just when I was learning something. The Ice Queen's gonna be in there for God knows how long, and my own company just went into sleep mode. Might as well continue what I started. Season 2 is where this series hits its stride. Remember how I said the first season feels highly impersonal? How in the first season the characters just stop dangerous foes, but we learn little about them and what they're thinking? While the second season kicks off with the episode Twilight, one of the best episodes of the series that gives us the highest stakes, most intense action scenes, most personal conflict, and strongest ending the series has so far. What happens in this episode is that while Apocalypse, Darkseid's planet, is weakened by failed military ventures, Brainiac comes to assimilate the planet. If you didn't watch Superman the Animated Series, you have no idea what I'm talking about. This episode is one that really rewards knowing the continuity. If you're not familiar, I recommend watching this list of episodes in Superman. Darkseid asks the Justice League to help stop Brainiac, and Superman is for once the smart one and says to not trust a guy named Darkseid. Anyway, the rest of the League decides to help Darkseid fight Brainiac. Batman and Wonder Woman go to New Genesis to go get Orion to help out. So obviously Darkseid was working with Brainiac, and Brainiac has a plan to extract DNA from Superman to become a life form or something. But Darkseid betrays Brainiac too with a virus, claiming that Brainiac's gonna help the Dark Tyrant rule the universe. Then Batman and company come to the rescue, and Superman has a brutal fight with Darkseid while Brainiac is about to explode. Batman stops Superman from actually killing Darkseid, which he was very willing to do, and Darkseid dies in the explosion. This episode basically resolved two of the major arcs in Superman the Animated Series. Brainiac and Darkseid team up, and they both died in this episode. The action is large scale and epic, and everything felt more fervent, especially the final battle where every single punch resonated with hatred and power. The entire second season continues the formula of being personal and vehement as well as profound. The Rogue Gallery heavily improves from the last season. Season 1 we had a decent lineup of villains. Lex Luthor and the Joker return from previous DCAU shows, becoming more cunning since they have to deal with an increased number of badasses. We also had Mongo, who was basically a weaker version of Darkseid. That design always looked lazy to me. We're also introduced to Gorilla Grodd, who wants to take over the world with mind control. Then there's also Aquaman's brother Orm, a treacherous baby-strangling jerk. And Felix Faust, a sorcerer who serves Hades, the god of the underworld. I don't know why Hades is always portrayed as a villain. In Greek mythology, he's pretty chill, especially compared to some of the other gods. He's just the ruler of the dead who's maintaining balance. Speaking of the dead, Solomon Grundy, a buff-ass zombie who likes speaking in third person, appears as well. There's also Arisha, a misandric human raised by Amazons who wants to destroy all men. Reminds me of this one boss from Xenosaga, and a few blogs I've seen online. Season 2 brings back Joker, Grundy, Grodd, and Luthor, and gives us a new set of villains as well, like John D, aka Dr. Destiny, aka Skeletor. Look at him, he's Skeletor. Skeletor manipulates dreams. Then there's Amazo, an android who copies powers through visual contact, looking for meaning. Despero, a false savior with poorly defined powers, is pretty cool too, mainly because Keith David.
Open your eyes that you may see!
Then there's the new side villains introduced, like Giganta, a side-shifting girl. Sinestro, the archenemy of the Green Lantern Corps. He's a lot less badass than Green Lantern fans would like, and Killer Frost, a psychotic crowd kinetic. However, the second season's real shining villains are the Justice Lords and the Lovecraftian monster Cthulhu. Ichthuatl. The single most important and one of the best episodes in the series is called A Better World. This episode's gonna require going into detail, trust me. It features an opening where the Justice League is attacking Lex Luthor's headquarters. Luthor and Superman have an exchange where Luthor finally breaks the Man of Steel with his ham.
Burn!
And Superman promptly murders Lex Luthor, who we find out was the President of the United States. It skips to 2 years later, and the Justice League are now fascists named the Justice Lords, clearly identified by new costumes. And look, Jean doesn't dress like a male stripper anymore. Right when you think this might be a permanent effect in this series, we were faked out. The real Justice League is discovered by the Justice Lord Batman. Remember when I said Batman has superhuman intelligence in this series? Yeah, if he's not stopping crime in Gotham, he builds an interdimensional portal.
You've been a busy little bat, haven't you? What else is there to do around here anymore?
The Justice Lords trap the Justice League and go to their universe to take it over, winning the people over when they beat up a Superman villain that never appeared in Superman the Animated Series, Doomsday. Doomsday is known for being the monster that killed Superman in the comics, and that lasted a short while, making Doomsday functionally Superman's bane. Lord Superman lobotomizes Doomsday. The League goes to save their hot girl, and the two Batmen face off in philosophy. The Justice Lord Batman gives in. Superman has Lex Luthor pardoned in return for help against the Justice Lords. Then the League and the Lords face off, until Luthor depowers the Lords, and they're sent back. This episode is a good look at the superhero genre and how it connects to fascism. It's also a good look at what it means to have power, and what powerful people represent to those below them, whether inspiration or resentment. It's a story that's been done in the comics and was recently used in the game Injustice: Gods Among Us, but it's the first time this story was adapted into animation. And it's imperative that every detail of this episode sticks in your mind, because it all comes back in Unlimited. The other highlighted villain in Season 2 was Ixtulutu, a great old one from ancient times that is responsible for the sinking of Atlantis. It's featured in the episode The Terror Beyond. The whole first half of the episode is Aquaman, Dr. Fate, and Solomon Grundy working on a ritual to sacrifice Grundy so the old one doesn't come back with his friends. We also learn that Solomon Grundy used to be someone named Cyrus Gold. Unfortunately, the ritual group doesn't understand basic communication and fight the Justice League instead of explaining the situation. This leads to Ixtulutu being freed. Hawkgirl's race, the Thanagarians, have a history with Cthulhu here. He used to be their blood god, but was cast out. Hawkgirl became an atheist because her god sucks. The episode ends with Aquaman single-handedly driving back an army of horrific creatures, while Solomon Grundy dies thinking that Ixtulutu has his soul, and Hawkgirl has to lie to Grundy as he dies about her atheism. This episode is quite emotional. It's built on a strange cast ensemble, primarily Solomon Grundy and Hawkgirl. Grundy was probably the most sympathetic antagonist of the Justice League series, even more so than the Ultra Humanoid. Dwayne McDuffie wrote this episode, and it shows his gift of heart. It's his quote, "I want to write stories about people come to life." And this episode shows how the series fixed the biggest fundamental issue with the first season. We better connect with the characters. Everyone had a motivation. Aquaman wanted to protect Atlantis, and he was sick of giant alien squid gods. Join the club, I am too. Solomon Grundy wanted his soul, not knowing what that was even going to bring him. And Hawkgirl, or rather her culture, has a personal beef with the monster. One more special mention goes to the episode Wild Cards. The Joker set a bomb, 25 bombs, over Las Vegas, and sent the Royal Flush Gang, a bunch of superpowered teenagers hilariously voiced by the Teen Titans.
The food's a lot better since we signed on with the J-Man.
I like his style. Joker's a class act. Don't get me wrong. These guys give good backup, but they don't call me king for nothing.
A real genius, that one. I am the most powerful, and I know what it's like to frighten other people.
To slow our heroes down. This is one of the most exciting episodes of the series. There's a constant timer, lots of kinetic action, and has a good twist. About 3/4 through, we see that the Joker is planning to drive the people watching TV insane using the member Ace. Batman has Harley reveal the clown's location by insinuating that Joker is a pedophile. No, really.
You've seen the way he touches her hair, the way he rubs her shoulders.
You mean Ace? She's just a kid.
Really? Then why is she with him while you're out here in the cold?
Batman frees Ace, Joker gets mind screwed, and also the sexual tension between John and Hawkgirl is resolved with implied lovemaking. Aw yes, kids will love this. Now for the series finale. DCAU shows were all missing proper finales before this. To fix this, Static Shock had a proper grand finale, and every season finale of Justice League is also programmed to be a series finale, should they not be renewed for a new season. Like Futurama.
Like Fry!
Now for the first Justice League finale. A massive spoiler in 10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1. Hawkgirl, who claimed to be far from her planet, is in fact an agent to collect data on Earth, and she's already got a boyfriend, Crow Talek. This really sucks for John, because he's only dated her for one episode. One! And it's already screwed up! Jesus! Things get worse when it becomes clear that Crow is perfectly willing to sacrifice whoever to defeat a race Thanagar is warring against, the Gordanians. And it just happens that he wants to sacrifice Earth. Hawkgirl told her people how to subdue all the members of the League. Now I'm reminded of why I disliked her. Damn you, Shayera! So, the League escapes and goes undercover for a bit while the Thanagarians impose martial law. Shayera, learning that Crow wants to kill Earth to win the war against the Gordanians, decides she's had enough of this and gives information to the League, as well as John his ring. Shayera is caught by Krager, Crow's advisor, who had tracked her. Superman, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern go to engage the Thanagarian forces to shut down the Hyperspace Bypass Generator, aka the Doomsday Machine. Batman, Jean, and Flash go to use the Watchtower as a missile to smash the generator. Lantern fights Crow, and Shayera tells Crow to bug off because he's kind of a jerk. Batman is saved by Superman, the Thanagarians leave after the Doomsday Machine is destroyed. The League talks about whether or not to keep Shayera on the team, seeing how she betrayed them. Before the answer is spoken, Hawkgirl resigns, and Green Lantern is heartbroken. Poor guy. This is a finale. The stakes are huge, there was a large plot twist, the story was not presented in a completely black and white morality scale, which was very different from the invasion in the pilot, which was just a generic evil alien race. The violence in the episode is even more brutal than in Twilight. It looks like the Justice League is pretty down to kill a lot of these Thanagarians. Every character was developed, especially Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, and it's certainly emotional. It ends strongly with a highly conflicted John Stewart and a woman he's grown to love leaving him behind. The second season of Justice League is probably my favorite season of any animated action series. The storytelling is dramatic and full of twists and turns, which is present in the first season. The improvement was the intensity. The action felt more cutting. The stories told us more about the characters, as Dwayne McDuffie's main contribution as part of the creative team was to humanize the characters, which is what he did with Static. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this series is not entirely humorless. It's pretty dramatic, but most of the cast are prone to being snarky to diffuse the tension.
Having fun?
Yes. Speak to me, child of Thanagar.
Nothing to say. I've got a gesture for you, but my hands are tied.
Ingenious.
Yeah, I'm impressed. Let's go wreck it.
What's this do?
That's not helping.
Despero, I presume. With a backup group, no less.
Humans are slow, ugly, immoral, and have an unpleasant body odor.
Hey, who you calling slow?
Flash, don't heckle the supervillain.
You're no Superman.
The ladies say different.
You're insane. True, but that doesn't mean I'm not good company. Say, you want to come over to my house? Like you've got something better to do.
Hey, that's a giant dinosaur.
And I thought Batman was the detective.
And the jokes are fun and quick without stopping the plot. Overall, Justice League is fantastic. It's a strong show with a nice ensemble cast, each with their own personalities and fighting styles. The story writing is comic book quality, notably much higher than standard Y7 cartoons. It's welcoming enough to new people, and rewards its old fans for sticking around. So, what happens in Unlimited? We'll find out some other time.
Well, why is Joffrey in sleep mode?
Don't look at me, he kinda just did it on his own.
Oh, so what did he tell you?
A little about what's going on. He was talking about you, but then yeah.
You don't have any clue why you're here, do you?
None whatsoever.
Well, let's get you fed. You probably are rather hungry by now.
Oh, thank you.